This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/Andrew and enter promo code Andrew at checkout. RX Bar is a whole food protein bar with no BS. Get 25% off your first order by going to rxbar.com/Andrew and using the promo code Andrew. That's rxbar.com/Andrew. Promo code Andrew.
What the tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zan. Of course, I'm joined by Mr. Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
I'm getting there.
Yeah, oh, wow.
How are you doing?
No, pretty good. I know you had a crisis that you cannot talk about for 2 weeks.
I mean, I was going to, about 10 seconds ago, I was completely, screwed, but I think it's going to be okay.
Oh, by the way, I'm drinking again on the show. Because
Fantastic.
2 weeks in a row, people said it was a very good show, and I'm going to continue this trend until it sucks.
Why mess with success?
Why mess with success? And thank God for alcohol, I'll tell you that. I do have a lot to talk about. It's amazing. We've done this show for God knows how long. And, it's an interesting observation how viewership changes and new viewers come and things become hot topics. I think this, a major point of the show was when you had the Xbox announcement, when I guess you leaked some info a couple years ago.
Yep.
And I was on the cover of
the original Xbox One. Yep.
The original Xbox One, and I was on the cover of the Turkish Times.
That's right, as Paul Thurrott.
As Paul Thurrott. I am the...
That was a big moment for both of us.
That was a big moment. That was the first time that you were on the cover on the Turkish Times with a substitution. I am the Middle Eastern friendly version of Paul Thurrott. I am what they imagine.
We look a lot alike.
We do, yeah. I'm Turkish friendly, I guess, but that was like a huge moment for us. And the last couple of weeks, this iPhone and Android conversation that we've been having has turned into this major discussion amongst our followers and Twitter and on YouTube. And I kind of want to continue this, but I don't want to dwell on this for 3 weeks in a row. But because there's so much more to talk about.
Well, you know what though? But I assume what you're alluding to are the problems with the Pixel.
Yes.
The new Pixel, the problems with the iPhone 10 in particular, and then and that. I mean, so I don't know that dwelling on it is such a bad thing. This is kind of the news of our time,
Yeah.
This is what's happening now.
Yeah. I'm going to touch on that, but there's so much other stuff I need to get to that we haven't spoken about. Like, you have an Xbox One X? Is that true?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was sorry. I'm so discombobulated. I was asking my wife if she would close the door to my office with my mic.
I thought I said something I wasn't supposed to. Like,
no, go on.
Xbox
Please
One
ask
X.
the question again. I'm sorry. I'm so distracted.
You have an Xbox One X.
I do.
You do.
I do.
And we're gonna do a little first impression review here on the show. I know a lot of people want to hear about this, including the young guys on YouTube.
Okay,
By young guys, I mean 30-year-olds like me.
Sure. I think what I'm going to do is put a baseball cap on backwards.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a little video like on YouTube where I move around a lot and I say really cool things.
Is this your hit at me wearing a baseball
this
hat
is
again?
going to be my hip new persona. I should probably shave my head.
Yeah, or you could grow a beard like me.
Yeah. Well, I can't really grow a beard like you. My beard would be more like the salt and pepper kind of Walking Dead beard,
So I have all this to talk about and so much more here on the show because it's a jam-packed show and we're running out of time and Paul has stuff going on. But before we go on, I want to take a moment and talk about our sponsor, and that's Casper. If you're looking for a new mattress, look no further than Casper.com. You can save an additional $50 towards a mattress purchase by going to Casper.com/Andrew and entering the promo code Andrew at checkout. I have to tell you, Paul, so my boss at my day job, my secret day job, found out that I do these Casper reads, that I do the show and I do these podcasts and stuff. And he is obsessed with Casper. He's obsessed by my live reads for Casper because he doesn't know me to do, stuff like this. He knows me in a different capacity. And I walk into the office and he's going off and pretending he's me doing Casper reads. He mentioned Casper so much that during the meeting, 2 people went and bought Casper mattresses. They ordered Casper mattresses with my promo code because all he does now in the meetings is do Casper.com/Andrew. And I have to tell you, these guys at Casper really know how to put together an affordable premium mattress. The products that they make are unbelievable. Not only do they have mattresses, they have duvet covers, they have foundations, they have dog beds. They've expanded exponentially over the last couple of years that we've been discussing Casper. And the reason why is that Casper is designed by humans for humans, meaning they consider you as a person when they are making these mattresses. They combine multiple supportive memory foams for a quality sleep surface that you could just sink right into and it'll take the right bounce. This is what you want in a mattress. I really, really recommend you try them out. They have a 100-night guarantee. You could try them out for 100 nights, see if you like it. If you don't, guess what? You can send it right back. Casper mattresses are made right here in the United States, and they are not just a mattress company. You have to remember that. It's about your overall sleep experience with Casper. I've been sleeping on a Casper mattress for almost 2 years now, and I have to tell you, I went from a very expensive mattress, a couple $1,000s, that was recommended to me because of their great quality and how everybody loves these expensive mattresses, and I hated it every single day until I got my Casper mattress. Risk-free 100-day trial. You can sleep on it for 100 days. Go to Casper.com/Andrew, get $50 off your Casper purchase. I want to thank Casper for supporting What the Tech. Let's talk about the Xbox, Paul.
Okay.
What everybody wants to talk about. So the Xbox One X, you have one?
I do.
So your overall review will come out November 3rd, from what I heard.
That's right. A week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow. This is a big day. So
I believe I can't actually write or say anything about the experience of using it until that time.
Okay.
Today, what I can tell you is, I guess, just my impressions of the hardware, right? Just the unboxing part of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to not install games on this while we record the podcast out of respect to
the podcast or the Xbox. There it is.
Yep.
That is a comparison to the Xbox One S,
Right. That's right. Yeah, so, if you actually hold on to go back to that top one, if you don't mind. These are slightly out of order for some reason, but that particular image is kind of interesting because if you look at the ports, what you'll see is that they match from device to device, right? And this is one of those little things that Microsoft did purposefully to make it easy on people who are upgrading, because the idea is,
they reversed it though, right? It was on the bottom and now it's on the top.
Well, yeah, okay. I'm sorry, top to bottom, it's reversed. But the nice thing is they're in the exact order that they were before. And I haven't tried this yet, but I assume that the power cable is identical between the two. But whatever. The idea here is that not only does it have the same exact ports, but they're in the same order on the back. Smart, So that's just kind of a nice little touch. I'm curious to see how this thing does under load, with 4K games in particular, but we'll have to wait on that one. And then as far as just the general design, it's obviously very reminiscent of the Xbox One S in particular, but it's got that kind of familial look and feel like all the Xbox Ones. Yeah, the controller, I'm sorry?
It's massive.
No, it isn't. Actually, like the first one was massive. What I should have done is put the old one in with them, and I'll do that for the review or whatever. But the original Xbox One was a tank.
Yeah.
The Xbox One S and the X are just about the same size. They're not quite identical, but they're almost exactly the same size. And they're very attractive and kind of thin. I mean, it's impressive that they could fit that much, I don't know, horsepower or whatever into the device.
It's a full-fledged gaming PC essentially, right?
Yeah.
And in a slim form factor. Something that PC manufacturer OEMs have had a real difficult time kind of achieving, right? You give up the practicality. You give up practicality for design. You give up design for practicality.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, when you hear that Microsoft's making a 4K console, the first thing you think is, oh, it's going to be like a tower PC. It's gonna be some huge thing. And I always go back to the Xbox 360 because I saw that console want to say 6 or 8 months ahead of its release. And I went to Microsoft to visit those guys and talk to them about it. And at the time, what they had was these dev kits. And the dev kits were 2 Mac G5 towers
giants,
tied together. I mean, gigantus. And a wired controller connected to that. And so, of course, my first question was like, well, hold on a second. How are you going to fit that stuff into the tiny white box that you guys have shown off already as being the console? And I remember it was Aaron Greenberg said, oh, no, we got guys working on that. We're going to be all set. But, of course, that thing that they did by jamming those kind of components into a small case was, of course, the source of the Red Ring of Death stuff, because they had a lot of reliability problems with that original console, which they fixed, right, with the Xbox One S and then the Xbox 360S and then the Xbox 360E, which was the final version. So we don't see those problems now. The original Xbox One, off the top of my head, I think had an external power brick, humongous box plus a big power brick. The Xbox One S just has a power cord. The Xbox One X also has a power cord. And like I said, I think it's identical. I haven't actually put them side by side or tried to, I don't want to screw around with it too much right now, but they appear to be identical. And so it's kind of an amazing thing. Think back 4 years between the original console and today. They added HDR capabilities for video in the S and 4K, and they added 4K and HDR capabilities for games in the X. And it's astonishing.
I actually commend Microsoft for kind of sticking to their plan of upgrading this thing every couple of years.
Yeah,
to keep up.
It's so smart.
Yeah,
yep.
And rather than have a relaunch of a brand new device, it's incremental upgrades every couple of years. And you as a consumer, I don't know, do you feel like the consumer would feel burned because of these incremental updates every 2 to 3 years? Because remember, Taylor's very interested in the Xbox.
Yep.
Very interested. Because we've had 3 now in how many years?
Right. 4.
In 4 years, so every year, essentially, a year and a couple of months, we've had a new Xbox come out.
Well, yeah,
as the consumer, should you applaud Microsoft and say, wow, they're very proactive at evolving with the times and trying to, this is almost like being a PC manufacturer at this point. Every year you got a refresh of your device. Right. Or are you thinking, screw these guys, it's a money grab. I just bought this 3 years ago and now there's a new one and I feel burned.
No, it's not like that. Maybe you could think about it like an iPhone release, right? Although these things are starting to change a little bit, but traditionally, the past couple of releases anyway, Apple has had like a major release 1 year, and then they do that S release the second year, right? And so depending on the version, these things change over time. The non-S release is typically a brand new design, right? And you can take your chances on that, but kind of with the S version, they fine tune it and they even it out and they add a couple of new features, whatever. So it makes sense in that world to skip every other version, right? Yeah. And that kind of worked with the traditional 2-year contract on smartphones at the time, and it kind of made a lot of sense. Today we have different ways of buying smartphones, obviously, and things have changed a little bit there. But with the console, what they're doing is applying a different way of thinking about it. The consoles used to be an 8 to 10 year thing, and even though, like I mentioned with the Xbox 360, Microsoft upgraded the console hardware, they did that to save costs because component prices come down. In some cases, to make the things smaller, slimmer, et cetera, quieter, whatever. But the capabilities of the console, for the most part, didn't really change that much over that period of time. But like you said, now it's kind of like PC makers do with PCs. It is like phone makers do with phones. And if you bought an Xbox One in 2013 when it first came out, and the Xbox One S came out, actually it was last summer, is that right? 2 summers ago? I don't remember, but let's say in the interim, you might have skipped that one, right? Because you can look at the capabilities, and from a game playing perspective, it didn't really change. They dropped the direct connect support in that one. You could still connect to connect, if you will, but you needed special adapters. But as far as games went, it didn't really change the equation. So if you already had one of those, you don't really feel burned that they come up with a new one. But now that there's an Xbox One X, someone who bought that original console or someone who's been holding off this whole time might look at this and say, actually, now there's enough benefit that this thing might make sense to me. But if you're an Xbox One S user, it's going to depend on a number of factors, whether you have a 4K TV, whether enough of the games that you play are going to be, have those Xbox One X enhanced attributes, 4K graphics, HDR, et cetera. And whether the cost is, not too much for you. Because the other thing that's going to happen, by the way, is a year is going to go by, and at some point, the price on this thing is going to come down. And one thing that's been really cool in the Xbox space over the past year is the sheer number of really low-cost bundles that Microsoft has released. So you get the console with various games and services and so forth, and then just the price drop, essentially. I mean, the Xbox One S with games, you have a hard time spending more than $250 on that thing these days. So I don't see the Xbox One X being that cheap a year from now. That doesn't make sense. But I could see it being like $100 less next year. And certainly at that point, maybe with game bundles and so forth for the holidays, whatever it is, you can make your decision at that time. So I think this is it's such the right approach. When they announced they were going to do this a couple of years back, I wrote and said and believed it was the right approach. But now that you kind of see it really happening, and you can kind of look back over the past 4 years, it's very clearly the right approach. You could spend today $250 on an Xbox One S, understanding that a year or two down the road, you might upgrade to a 4K TV and want to play that content on a higher resolution, and everything comes forward. They haven't switched consoles, like console. The platform hasn't changed. So those, not only does your library come along with you, but in many cases, those games are going to look and play better. It's genius.
Yeah, it's a very interesting plan. It's a shift in the original concept of how consoles work. So my question now is, what is Sony doing the same approach now? Will they follow with this?
Yeah,
they kind of have to.
Well, so interestingly, Sony already is doing the same thing, right? They didn't have an S release, but they did have a 4K release, right? The PlayStation Pro came out last year. I don't remember anymore. It seems like an eternity ago. The problem for Sony is that their PlayStation Pro is very much an interim release, right? It's a lot closer to the Xbox One S than it is to the Xbox One X, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, does Sony come out with an attempt to leapfrog Microsoft next holiday season with a PlayStation 4 Pro 2 or whatever they call it?
Whatever they call it, yeah.
Yeah, I bet they do, actually, because I think Sony has essentially signed on to the same paradigm, that this is not the way things were done historically in the video game space, but that doesn't matter because this is how things are done now.
But how are they? I mean, with phones, right? If we're looking at this how phones work, we kind of subsidize the costs via contracts and things like that. Yeah. Services, is that Microsoft's approach that because they've historically lost money on every Xbox sold, especially with the Xbox 360, right? That thing hemorrhaged because of the run breaking issue. But is this how are they looking at, if they are going to incrementally update these devices every year and a half, that's going to cost more money?
Well, yeah. So, again, it's funny because part of the strategy is very much like smartphones, and part of it isn't. So if you think about HP, and HP, I don't know, 3 years ago, whatever, came out with the first version of the Spectre X360, and then about a year later, they came out with the second version. Maybe it was 18 months later. Between those two releases, they did like a special edition of the first one that had a couple of minor little bumps or whatever, but then they completely changed the hardware. And as of today, we're on the third generation of that product. But there have basically been these other interim releases where they added like a 4K screen in one case. They the second gen originally did not have 4K or multi-touch. If I'm not not multi-touch. I'm sorry, pen support. Yeah. They added that midstream. And so you have 3 major releases, but you really have what amounts to 5, maybe even 6 total releases when you include all the little interim releases. There's no problem there because someone who bought the first one probably isn't going to buy the second one. Will they buy the third one? Yeah, maybe. But just like on the console, all of the stuff that works on that PC works on the next one too. That's the beauty of the PC, right? The software is always the same. And so we were kind of applying that methodology to the video game space with Xbox these days, right? So they're doing that kind of thing. The cost savings or whatever, or the cost reductions, or the costs, I guess, are the same as they've always been, right? They're going to lose money on these things up front. They always strive to not lose money. Component prices come down over time. They do new versions of the console. And one of the ways it's like the smartphone world is that Microsoft today can sell an Xbox One S and an Xbox One X. So the S came out, like, I want to say 2 years ago. That thing is less expensive to sell today. It's possible they might even do another version of the S at some point that's further cost reduced. And hopefully over time, what they do is they make money on the console. But what they're really making money on is the software sales and the licensing and all that kind of stuff. And so, the Xbox One X is kind of a guarantee that a certain part of the population is going to stay in the Xbox family, right? And so you have this giant library of games maybe on an Xbox One, the original one. Well, and that would make sense to buy another device because that stuff gets better on the new console, and you don't have to rebuy everything. It's free, and it's a little bit like Apple did with movies on the 4K Apple TV, and it's very much like what Apple does in the phone space, where they still sell, in their case, 3 versions, but it's like an iPhone 6S, an iPhone 7, and now an iPhone 8, and actually an iPhone 10. So there's 4 of them, but they're kind of further along at this point. So when the Xbox One first came out, the low-cost thing was an Xbox 360. And so when you think about the leap between those two consoles, first of all, you have software incompatibility. There is Xbox backward compatibility, but not all games are compatible. Now you flash forward to Xbox One S and X, 100% compatibility in software. And the software actually gets better. Even if the game maker did nothing, it's still going to be better on the X. And if they did a little bit of work, it could be like dramatically better.
This is going to be a dumb question. I'm sure a lot of our audience on Twitch is going to look at me and say, Andrew, you're an idiot. But are manufacturers, are game developers going back and patching these things to kind of perform better on these?
They are.
So if you had an Xbox One S and then now you're on the Xbox X.
Andrew, it's even better than that because the Xbox One X, and again, the way that they're doing the strategy is so genius. And it's funny to me, a year ago, whenever this was first being reported on, a lot of naysayers in the video game space. This is an audience that adheres to tradition. They can't stand that things are different now. A lot of people complained about this, but here's the beautiful thing about this. Not only are developers going back to their Xbox One games, and in some cases enhancing them dramatically. You can add HDR color for more vibrant display. You can add you get faster frame rates out of the box. That's automatic. Faster disk loads, automatic. But you can make small changes to make those things even better. You can do 4K assets, so you have beautiful high-res graphics, or at least faster, or higher res graphics than you might have had originally. That's happening. But it's not just that, right? We also have backwards compatibility on both the original Xbox and on the Xbox One X. And in both cases, you get automatic benefits just by going to the X. But we're even seeing developers enhance their Xbox 360 titles so that they look and play better explicitly on the Xbox One X. That's astonishing, right? So this is like a sudden continuum, a tradition, if you will, that spans generations of consoles and even generations within consoles. So you get benefit if you have 360 games. The fact that you can play them on a completely different architecture on an Xbox One at all is astonishing, a huge benefit. The fact that those games can get better, and in many cases will get dramatically better by going to the Xbox One X, it just makes this more of a sure thing from a platform perspective. It's genius.
Yeah, it's very interesting. When is the release date
for the X?
Yeah,
next Friday. Next Friday. 3rd.
Oh, so it's the same day as I guess.
Is that right? The 3rd.
Same day as your embargo.
I think it is, right? It would be, right? Of course it is. Must be. Or is it? No, you know what? No, it's not. I'm sorry. It's the following Tuesday. It's the 7th, right?
7th. Yeah, it would be after that.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
No, so my embargo is for next Friday. But the actual release is on Tuesday the 7th. I'm just looking this up to make sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Where is it? I don't know. I can't find it for some reason. Anyway, I believe it's the 7th. So they're having, by the way, events in New York. You could consider doing that.
Ooh.
I'm vaguely thinking about it.
Are you coming? I will come if you go. I will go. Come on.
I'd have to stay overnight because it's like because it's at midnight that night.
You know what? What if I could find you? If I could find you a nice hotel in a nice hotel in like for very little.
I would absolutely consider it. So there's a Microsoft event, a Microsoft Store event happening on 5th Avenue. and it will be live streamed, or at least an hour of it will. So starting at 11 p.m., you can watch it virtually in like a million different places. And then they're opening the store. And the cool thing about this, by the way, is if you have a Microsoft store in the area, you can pre-order the console today. I think you can still do this. Say where you want to get it, and you can actually get it that night in person. And the reason that's cool is because if you order it like digitally or electronically, you'll get it by FedEx or UPS or whatever it is the next day. But that could come at any time. Like your UPS driver may show up at 5 p.m. the next day. Yeah. So if you want to get this thing first thing and you have a store locally, that's kind of a cool thing to do. And if you live on the West Coast, it's going to be 9 p.m. on Monday, not 12 p.m. because they're trying to make it even across the United States. So people on the West Coast will actually be able to get it what is essentially the day before for them.
Yeah.
If you want to do it in person. So that's pretty cool.
Let's think about it. Maybe we could do something together. Very interesting stuff. Guys, we do have a lot more to talk about. I want to get through so much here. But before we do, I want to talk about RX Bar. If you guys don't know this already, I have started my workout again. I have started working out. I've started eating right. I've started doing all the things that I used to do about a year ago, about 2 years ago. You know, for about 2 years, I was living a very healthy lifestyle and eating clean and taking care of myself and working out every day. And then with 2 kids, things kind of change. It gets very difficult. And you go for something really quick and really fast. And unfortunately, those things were really terrible things to eat. About a year ago, I started taking RX bars when I was working out, and it was super filling, high protein, gave me the energy I wanted, and I was able to push through my day, my mornings with an RX bar. You know, that was my snack almost. It was a healthy alternative to eating nonsense. RX Bar has a great offer for you guys. If you go to rxbar.com/Andrew, you get 25% off your first order at rxbar.com/Andrew, and you could use the promo code Andrew at checkout. I love these guys. I consume it every day. There's a little coffee shop next to me, and they sell RX bars. And all it is, it's a little bar, and it'll fill you up. And it tastes great. It's not expensive. You know, a lot of times when people talk about these kind of, you know, bars, they think, okay, it's going to be, you know, either very expensive or it's going to be flavorless. These things are unbelievable. I've been, like I said, a couple years now, and I absolutely love them. I want to thank RX Bar for supporting the show, obviously. If you go to rxbar.com/Andrew, you can sign up. Actually, this is great. So you could actually see what the ingredients are on their website. If you go to rxbar.com right now, you see, you know, it's 3 egg whites, 6 almonds, 4 cashews, 2 dates, and no BS. By the way, the chocolate sea salt one is my absolute favorite. Now they have a pumpkin spice for the fall also. 12 grams of protein in these bars. rxbar.com/Andrew. I want to thank RX Bar for supporting the show. Oh, Paul, where do we go?
Yep. Where
do we go after this? So I'll talk to you next week about the Xbox.
Okay.
Surface Book 2.
Okay.
We didn't really talk about this much.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think it's great. There's something, you know, here I am being like super complimentary to Microsoft. People are going to think I've lost my mind, but I love Surface Book, and it's interesting on a number of levels because from a design perspective, you could say that it's kind of wacky. It's got that weird, you know, teardrop shaped hole in it when you close it, the weird hinge and everything. Obviously, for the first year especially, they had massive reliability problems, which I believe to be largely associated with that clipboard, you know, screen that can pop off for no good reason. And yet, you know, for all that stuff, and I've had tons of problems with it, to be sure. I love this device. It's the perfect screen, and by perfect I mean perfect size, shape. You know, the aspect ratio is 3:2, which I love, and you know, resolution at Retina class. You know, kind of what they call pixel sense display is amazing. The keyboard is perfect. The trackpad is perfect. It just has this something to it. You know, it's hard to explain. When I use 13-inch laptops, if you think about like a MacBook or a MacBook Air or the HP Spectre X360 I talked about earlier, which I really like. I mean, it's amazing.
Did you get a review unit yet?
Of the new one?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Okay, I'm waiting.
Yeah, I think those are those will be happening pretty soon. But still, and by the way, I think maybe for a lot of people that's fine. 13 inches seems to be very standard. But I find when you go up in size, 14 to 15 inches in particular.
Honestly, I'm going to tell you, so right now I'm on this giant 15-inch MacBook.
Yeah.
Right. And it's way too big. It's a very nice laptop if it's stationary and it just stays on a desk this is
right. So by the way, I have not
good for moving back and forth.
No, right. I mean, so the 15-inch version of the Spectre X360, which is currently the machine I'm using to test like the next version of Windows 10. The screen size I love. The portability is not great, right? And so that particular computer, I brought it to Germany this past February, and carrying that thing around is not great. And that device is even bigger than the MacBook. But and the Surface Book will suffer from that same issue. But the thing is, once you get up, again, perfect screen size for me. The keyboard's the same, perfect trackpad, great. Killer battery life. Now we'll have to test that to be sure, but they're claiming 17 hours. I'm thinking somewhere around 12. And finally, for the first time, and this is exactly the direction I had said earlier that Microsoft should go in, and they did it. Which is very unusual for me, by the way. I'm very happy about this. Turn it into a portable workstation, right? So the first version, you could get some with a D GPU, but it was it was an unnamed NVIDIA something. It was like 1 gig of RAM, really not very special in any way. The second version, I want to say, was a 940, 960M kind of whatever, 2 gigs of RAM. It was okay. This time around, you get serious GPUs in this thing. I think off the top of my head is 1050 to 13 and 1060 in the 15-inch version. That's a gaming PC.
Yeah.
So they have done this, right? Finally, that thing which I've always thought this is what it should turn into, especially when you see a Surface laptop, as it's kind of a plain Jane laptop. The Surface Book has turned into that perfect device for power users. So if you're a developer, if you're someone who does video work, if you're a gamer, this is like the one PC that can do it all now.
Yeah.
And it's and look professional, right? It's not like a lot of gaming PCs have, lighting pouring out the bottom or red lights everywhere or whatever it is. And that kind of, they look like boy racer cars. This is a professional looking business class laptop that can also shred it in video games. It's amazing.
I'm excited to get the Spectre 13, the new one, because I'm curious how it's going to do compared, as far as like ruggedness compared to this one. Right? Yep. Where is it? Oh, it's at the office.
The EliteBook X360.
Yeah, I don't have it. So it's at the office.
It's it's consumer class, not business class, but it's premium materials. You do have the option, by the way, on the new X360, the Spectre X360. To do the privacy shield thing, right? That's a first. Mm-hmm. The other thing that's really interesting about these devices, and it's not unique to Spectre, but HP does a really good job of this, and you hopefully saw this when you were at the event a few weeks back. They have these external boxes now that add GPU capabilities to a standard laptop.
Yes, I did. Right? I saw it.
Over Thunderbolt 3. So this, to me, solves a huge problem, because if you think about a device like the new Surface Book we're talking about, 15-inch, big screen, blah, 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 whatever it is, it's big enough you could use it at home like you're talking about with your MacBook. And it's kind of big to carry on the road, but depending on your needs, if you don't travel that much or whatever, it's probably going to be okay. With the Spectre X360 and with other laptops, again, to be fair, but you have this really small, light, portable thing that you can carry around with you. But when you come home, you can attach it to this box, which has the GPU in it, but it's also I guess it's a dock is what we'll call it. So it has all these outs going off it. So you have like a one plug connection, charges the device, adds a dedicated GPU, turns it into a gaming laptop. You can connect it to a huge screen, keyboard, mouse, whatever you want, peripherals, and it's killer, right? And so there's your best of both worlds, right? You have the big screen and all the power when you're home, but when you carry that little guy on the road with you, you've got this thing which is essentially like a 12-inch laptop form factor with a 13-inch screen, right?
Well, you know what's
perfect.
Interesting about
I don't want to say perfect. I don't have one yet, but I mean, it's such a good idea.
So I requested one to review. Yeah. Because it's compatible with not just the one that you're talking about, the HP. It's compatible with
Thunderbolt
anything
3.
that's Thunderbolt 3.
That's right.
Which I'm curious if it would work with the Mac.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right?
I don't know. I don't know how Apple handles external GPUs. But my understanding is that will work, because if you think back to the original announcement last year of those first new gen MacBook Pros, they actually did it was a preview at the time, but it showed, maybe it was just external displays, but I could have sworn they did a demo where they were talking about this kind of stuff. I believe this is standardized. It's just a Thunderbolt 3 feature.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
Yeah. Something interesting that I read this week about, the Amazon Fire TVs, the new ones have gone out.
Right. Actually, mine should be here today.
Yeah. And I have seen nothing but negativity about this device.
Oh, that's interesting. So I've not read anything yet.
So a couple of people that I know, one is he's, a tech person. He covers televisions. I don't.
Could you be more specific?
I can't be more specific because then he hasn't written his.
You don't want to say
yet.
who he is.
I don't want to say who he is, but he's someone that knows a lot about this topic. And his exact words for, in some cases, you're gonna have to bleep me here on the podcast. That it's an utter piece of shit. And
okay, so
it has an unbelievable amount of issues. Now, I haven't used one. I'm a big fan of the Fire TV, way more than the Apple TV. So I was shocked when I heard this. But he said he has quality issues, video quality problems, stuttering issues, navigation problems. There's a whole slew of issues that he's experiencing.
Well, by the way, I mean, hopefully that stuff can be solved with software. I'll let you know what I think. I mean,
I'm curious.
So, we had these big dreams about doing cord cutting and using a device. And originally we thought it would be the Apple TV, the 4K version. We're in a kind of a weird spot now because the Apple TV remote is terrible. It's completely unusable. Yeah. I suppose I could spend more money and get like a universal remote that would just work with it, but that's how you solve all Apple problems. You spend more money. It's ridiculous.
By the way, the Fire TV, one thing about, I have to tell you that I do not like, that I do like on the Apple TV remote, you have a volume control. You don't have that on a Fire TV.
Okay, so I went back and plugged in my old Roku from last year. It's a 4K Roku. I think it was the 4K, the Roku Ultra, whatever it was called. Also has a volume button on the control, right? Really helpful. We have a sound bar in the TV now. The sound bar, when you change the volume on the TV, it goes to the sound bar. It's perfect. So if you change the volume on the Apple TV remote or the Roku remote, changes the sound bar. That's what you want. Perfect. Okay, that's nice. The Fire TV, I don't have it yet, so I don't have that one. But the what was the other device? Oh no, that's it. I'm sorry. Oh no, I had an Android TV device. That one did not have a volume control. So I really like the remote, but it didn't have volume. So we're trying to find one thing that does everything. So I will give this thing a shot. But a couple things that have happened. So the display on the Apple TV is still by far the best. It just is. It's a weird thing. I can't explain it.
You know what? I know what it is. So I again, same person I spoke to, and I just said, tell me why one is better than the other. Because essentially, forget about the apps, right? We're talking about overall audio and video. And he said the one thing that you always notice on the Apple TV, more than what anybody else is doing, is that the black levels are so accurate. Yeah. It is such an accurate... Apple did spend time and effort into getting an accurate representation of what the color should be.
But there's even there's a black magic element to it because, you're always constrained by network speed and the condition of the network, and maybe the cable modem's not working very fast right now. Who knows what's going on? And individual apps suck, in some cases, but for the most part, the UI, the Apple apps and everything, it's amazing. It works great. We have so many avenues now for 4K HDR content, and none of them are perfect, and it's tough. And I don't know, the Movies Anywhere service has made it possible to get a lot of the content we purchase from Apple available on other devices. That helps a lot. But I hate the Apple remote, and the Apple TV still looks the best. And in some ways still, like you said, the volume thing, I know it sounds like a little thing. The ability to use one remote that can actually do things like change channels and select content and speed up and slow down and fast forward and rewind and change the volume. It's like, I know that sounds ridiculous even having this conversation in 2017, but a lot of stuff doesn't do all that stuff.
A lot. Listen, Fire TV doesn't do it. By the way, Logitech is sending me a universal remote one of their top ones. They heard somebody from Logitech. We were talking about this a couple weeks ago, and they sent me an email saying like, "Hey, we'd love you to try these remotes."
Yeah, well, tell them about me because I need this. So I need this very badly. Like this is a huge
why
problem.
don't you get these stuff? Why am I always getting them?
Because I have to. I don't know.
You got to respond to those emails. That's why.
Right. I have to make an effort. And that's probably the problem.
No, because right now I am canceling cable. I am done. I'm cutting the cord.
I just re-signed up for cable. Did I tell you this story?
No, don't. I wish you didn't. I wish you didn't tell me this.
No, but here's the thing. You kind of run the numbers on it, and it's like I just want to watch a TV show. I just want to, and it's actually less expensive.
That's how they get you.
Of course, it's how they get you.
And then they stick you one in the rear with a bundle. Sure. They tell you, "Well, no, Paul, for another $10, we'll give you a home phone."
The way they get you is in January. They're going to say, "Hey, by the way, for 3 months for free, you can get HBO and Showtime and whatever." And you're like, "Great!" And then after that time, it's going to be $89 more a month. And you kind of forget about it.
They got me so good. So I had cut my files. I had a perfect plan to keep cable in one room. And are you cats fighting?
My cat is
going to war?
don't know if you probably didn't see this, but on Windows Weekly yesterday, my cat interrupted the entire episode repeatedly because we had painters in the house. So I was trying to console her. Her hair was flying everywhere. Still, I could see her hair everywhere. So because now it's today, the painters are not here today. She has learned that now she can do what she did yesterday. So she repeatedly has come to my office today, made a little crying sounds, jumped up on my desk, tried to get on my lap, and it's like, we're not doing this today.
Yeah.
That was a one-time deal. But it's going to take like a week to break her of this because she had that one magical day where she got everything she wanted. And that's how cats are. So
that's excellent. Yeah, so I had cut everything down to just basic TV in the living room for like if it's like the Super Bowl, you want to watch it, or it's the World Series, you want to watch it. And I needed to watch Access TV.
You needed to watch Access TV. Those words just came out of your mouth.
For New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Okay.
And I ended up having to get a bundle package for like two packages above what I got.
What channel is Access TV on? Oh, Access TV is the channel.
Is the channel. It's like 500.
Sorry, Access TV sounds like an Access Hollywood type show. You're talking about a channel.
The channel. Yeah, no, I wanted to watch New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't know if that's better than Access TV.
Look, I think I understand where this is going. The idea is that online you could pay for this one service and pay $10 a month or whatever the cost is. And you're saying this is a lot less expensive than the bundle that includes a bunch of shit you don't want.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Right. So now I'm paying like $30 more. And then I discovered that on my cable bill, I have like 6 cable boxes I've never returned, like a dope. And I'm getting charged like $10 a box.
That's
$14 a box. So I'm spending like
that's not cable's fault.
That is my fault. No, it is their fault. They should remind me.
Jeez.
Listen, I'm gonna go with the excuse that my brothers do. I'm gonna go with the millennial excuse. This is not my fault. It's everybody else's.
Here's the deal. I knew going into this that the potential for failure was very high. And the way I will leave this, because this is an ongoing story, the truth is there are things I haven't looked at, like the DirecTV stuff. There are things that are going to improve in the future. Prices are going to come down, et cetera, et cetera. I'm willing to give this another shot. I will give this another shot. But I think the way to leave it is all of this stuff is terrible in its own way. If you stick with cable and subscribe to Netflix, or if you subscribe solely to 4 or 5 different services, or if you move in and out of services because, this Access TV thing you're talking about, maybe the wrestling's only on for like 2 months out of the year and you just get it for those 2 months and you're saving money, but you have to do the work and blah, blah, blah. Every one of these things is terrible. They're all terrible. It almost doesn't matter.
And how much content are I was thinking this. If it was anything other than cable, right? Can you ever justify spending $200 a month on something you use twice a week?
This is all right. We since we moved to Pennsylvania, the shows on TV.
Are you lonely there?
Yeah, very. Can you see the dark hole I'm living in?
Yeah.
So, as far as TV goes, my wife and I have watched kind of binge type shows on Netflix, on Hulu. We finished up the Game of Thrones, so we subscribed for 1 month to HBO Now or whatever. Actually, I think we did it for free. And then we were paying for these various services, sometimes 2 a month. And so $35 to $45 a month per service, $70 a month in some cases, because we paid for 2. What did we watch? What did we watch on those services, Andrew? We watched House Hunters International, and we watched some baseball games at night, basically. That was pretty much, we've watched some football too. So I joked with my wife one time, we're paying $45 a month to watch a show that infuriates us every single time we watch it. Like, maybe what we should do is alter our watching habits, and we could save $45 a month.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be one approach. So I don't know. The theory on TV is this: when TV is available, maybe you'll browse around, right? You're sitting there on the couch and you click on the remote, and there's a Clint Eastwood movie on, or there's a sports game on that you didn't know was coming, and you're like, yep, this is what I'm watching. Like, you're done. It's like what you want. I think the reality is that a lot of the time you just don't use any of it. And I think that's what they're counting on, right? That's how they get you. But that's true of services too, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're paying the cable company $45 or you're paying PlayStation View $45 or Hulu with live TV $45. You're going to pay someone $45 and you're going to watch House Hunters International. It's the worst. It is the biggest waste of time and money imaginable. And I think we all do that to some degree with some show or shows. Who cares? Unless you're going to just start reading books, you're going to give someone that money. I mean, it might as well work. And that's the thing with cable. Like you and I have talked a lot in the past about how awful various cable boxes are, et cetera, et cetera. Supposedly this thing is like a TiVo box. I can't wait to see it, but hopefully it's pretty good. But, chances are it's going to be horrible, and it will be horrible in its own way, and whatever. They're all terrible.
By the way, do you have a meeting?
You bet I do.
You got to go, right?
Yeah, actually, I just looked to see if they were pinging me, and they weren't, and then I just looked again, and now they are.
Now they are. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's messaging you, Tina or George?
This is from Tina.
Tell Tina she's ruining me.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll wrap it up, and then I'll do a little bonus show. I mean, maybe we can move the show up a half hour. Can we do we do 12:30?
We'll talk about it. Okay. Let me see. It's tough because I usually wind down. We eat lunch, and then I need to catch up on stuff, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. Guys, go to the website, gfknetwork.com. You can subscribe to the podcast. We're everywhere podcasts are available. Of course, everything Paul, go to Thurrott.com. Go check out what he's doing. So next Friday, you will have the post ready. What is that? That's the 3rd.
Yeah. So next Friday, I don't think I'm gonna have time. And well, I don't know. No, I'll probably do like a first impressions thing. I've got a number of articles. I'm gonna detail the setup stuff, the how it there'll be different write-ups about different apps and stuff, and then it'll probably be a couple of weeks before the actual like full review. But there will be, I think it's fair to say, several write-ups next Friday would be the target date.
Excellent. All right, guys. That is it for this week. We will see you all next time. Take care.
All right. I got